Hello my friends, today we will be taking a look at Leica dg-vario-ELMARIT 12-60mm F2.8-4 ASPH Panasonic's premium zoom lens for micro four thirds cameras. 24-120mm full-frame equivalent focal range that this lens provides means that it is a very versatile lens that can be used as a walk-around lens or travel lens. At the wide end it is suitable for landscapes, and at the mid to long end it can be used as a portrait lens, for example. The minimum focus distance of 20 cm also makes it a very capable semi-macro lens. 24-120mm is very popular zoom range since it can cover a lot of your needs. In terms of build quality, this lens definitely feels premium. The outer part is made entirely of metal, only the inner tube is made of plastics. The mount is of course metal as well. It is extensively weather sealed, it is splash proof, dust proof and freeze proof up to -10 degrees Celsius. It feels very solid, it has some heft to it, but it is not too heavy. It weighs 320 grams. The length is 86mm when collapsed, which makes it very compact considering the zoom range. Size-wise, it is a very good match for Panasonic high-end micro four thirds cameras like the G9, G85 or G85S. The Leica 12-60mm is also sold with these cameras as a kit lens. On G85, for example, it is still reasonably well balanced. I also like the design of this lens, especially that vintage or retro font and the signature orange letters marking the focal range. The lens hood is also supplied. It is very high quality lens hood, the rear part is actually metal and it has the button that needs to be pressed when you want to take the lens hood off. Regarding the control elements, there is an autofocus switch. It is a nice thing to have, but the cameras that the Leica 12-60mm will mostly be used on actually have the switch on the body, so it is not a necessity, and there is also a switch for the image stabilization. The zoom ring on Leica 12-60 is very smooth. It is what you would expect from Leica branded lens. The smoothness and resistance is uniform across the whole zoom range, and the smooth zoom in and out is not a problem. The focus ring is also very smooth, but it is focused by wire system, so that is not very hard to achieve. It is definitely one of the better focus by wire lenses for manual focusing. The focus ring is sensitive not only to turning distance, but also to the turning speed. What I really like about the 12-60mm Leica is that this lens is parafocal, which means that it stays in focus while the focal length is changing, which is actually not very common with lenses of this type. That means that you can make smooth zoom-ins in video, or that your subject won't go out of focus when you are shooting portraits, for example. As the name suggests, it is a variable aperture lens, so it goes from f2.8 at 12mm to f4 at about 52mm. f2.8 is unfortunately only available at 12mm. As soon as you touch the zoom ring, it starts changing. At 25mm the maximum aperture is f3.5 and at 36mm it is already f3.9. Of course this is a compromise to achieve that kind of focal range in such a small lens. If you need constant f2.8 aperture, you have to sacrifice the focal range and go with 12-35mm f2.8. Regarding the image quality, Leica 12-60mm is actually a really sharp lens. Of course, considering the focal range and optical compromises that have to be made to design a lens like this. Fortunately, it is quite sharp right from shooting wide open at f2.8, so we definitely can use f2.8 without being concerned about the sharpness too much. Even in the corners, the sharpness is very decent. The sharpness increases at f4 and the sharpest point is at about f5.6. That is basically the case across the whole focal range. At longer focal lengths between 25 and 40mm, the sharpness is more uniform across the frame. The sharpness is also fairly consistent. It is fine to use it anywhere between f2.8 and f8, so overall I do like the sharpness of Leica 12-60. What I like even more than the sharpness is the contrast and color reproduction. The contrast on this lens is excellent, and that is often more important than the sharpness itself. The colors are also very nice, there is no unnatural tint, it looks very natural, so this lens has a lot of character that makes the pictures simply look nice. Significant part of that is the rendition of the autofocus background. Leica 12-60 has 9 aperture blades, which is a step up over usual 7 aperture blades in basic kit lenses, and that is really visible. The chromatic aberration and distortion are automatically corrected when you use this lens on Panasonic camera, so those are not a problem, and there is only negligible amount of chromatic aberration left after the correction in the corners when shooting wide open. The autofocus works very well. Actually, the world's fastest autofocus acquisition of 400ths of the second that the Panasonic G9 is capable of is tested with Leica 12-60, and still the autofocus is instant. On the G9, the tracking and video autofocus works very well, but those are more affected by the capabilities of the camera body, but this lens definitely won't slow it down. The autofocus is also very quiet. It definitely won't be picked up by in-camera mic or by shotgun mic. Leica 12-60 also features image stabilization. That is actually difficult to judge because it works together with in-body image stabilization with dual IS2 compatible Panasonic cameras, and the result is very impressive on the G9. You can do very long exposures at about 5 seconds handheld with the G9 at wide angles. The video is just super smooth. So overall, the image stabilization is a big strength of Panasonic. Even with G85, it is still very impressive. So to sum up, Leica 12-60mm F2.8-4 is very good all-round lens with very useful focal range in a compact package. The sharpness is very good. Other optical qualities are good as well, especially the colors and contrast. It has some really nice features that differentiate it from lower-end walk-around lenses, like that it is parafocal, extensively weather sealed, it has switches for autofocus and image stabilization, and the build quality is exceptional. The only significant compromise is the variable aperture. It is not a cheap lens. Whether it is worth your money or not depends on you. For me personally, it is worth the money that I paid for it in a kit with the G9. I will also compare this Leica to Panasonic 12-60mm F3.5-5.6 in separate video. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.